And we are live with episode 78. This is your week 6 PHU Dynasty recap of the week's events. It was a very interesting week. Feels like we got some offense this week, Sean. Some exciting games with high scores. Uh, I'll tell you what, though, we can start it right off the bat. Roadkill here. He's having a bad time. He's having a bad time. It's not good for us.
Avert your eyes.
I know. Just cover his eyes. Don't look. You don't want to see it. But Roadkill here. We are struggling. We're riding the struggle bus. So if we're not going to make the playoffs, we have to at least have fun with it. So let's start right at the top, Sean. Let's start with Texas Armadillos, chili cheese fries. Cheese fries take the victory 117-52 to 85-36. So not really the cheese fries' best week. Obviously, Dak Prescott at the top. What a flub! I mean, that entire Cowboys game was. I mean, you would think that like when being down 9-47, that there would be some garbage time to work with. We did not get that. He got 3.22 points. I can't even really comprehend that with 33 pass attempts, which is crazy to me. So just that whole game was such a nightmare, dude.
Just a terrible matchup for the Cowboys. Like mostly man defense against a team that really doesn't get that much separation outside of CeeDee Lamb. They just had a tough time. It wasn't good. It's not good.
Yeah, it was a brutal game. I mean, I literally turned it off like probably mid through the third quarter. It was just not good. Obviously with Tibbs's team, Dak, Anthony Richardson being the quarterbacks there, week to week, there's some serious volatility in that quarterback room, unfortunately, where you probably thought that Dak was your floor this year, and Anthony Richardson was kind of your high upside play, but it seems like both are extremely volatile. Moving down the list on the cheese fries side, his running back showed up this week for sure. Breece Hall kind of got it back on track after a couple of single-digit performance games, gets it back with a 17.9%, point game, 18 carries, 113 yards. Also added 5 for 56 in the receiving game. So that's the Breece Hall that we expect week in, week out. And it's clear to me, at least after watching that game, that the new offense, is not going to just let Breece Hall get 9 carries like he did the week before. Like that just can't happen in order to win in this league. And
yeah,
I mean, I guess we could stick on the Jets here for a minute. Just with we'll talk about Davante Adams, of course, with Dan's team, but just let's talk about that trade and how that kind of affects the overall Garrett Wilson. Overall Tyler Conklin. I know you're a big fan. So, like, what does this mean for this offense? Does that mean less of somebody?
I can't foresee me starting Conklin at this point. It's just a numbers problem now because I think Wilson's still going to get targets. Davante's probably going to lead the team in targets the rest of the year. And then Breece is still in the passing game. They even use Braylon Allen. So, yeah, Conklin probably dead now. So, honestly, contemplating dropping him. We'll see how the next couple weeks go. But, probably not a very useful player the rest of the way. But we'll see. I don't know. That team should be interesting there, the rest of the season because they are so, Jekyll and Hyde. It seems week to week.
Yeah, it seems like this offense is really just run the ball and then throw some sort of back shoulder throw to a receiver and just let talent win. And I really hate that. They don't do any pre-snap motions. They don't do anything exciting or unique. So, I mean, Davante Adams, if there's anybody that's ever been able to catch an Aaron Rodgers back shoulder ball, it's Davante Adams. So who knows, maybe he's still got it and maybe this still works, but I would like to see it before I believe. So it's an interesting time up in New York. So let's keep rolling down the list here. Jahmyr Gibbs, 9 points, kind of his a lower point total for him, especially in a good matchup against Dallas. You would kind of hope for a little bit bigger of a game, but I truly believe this is David Montgomery's team. It just feels like he feels like the ultimate representation of the Lions, and I don't obviously with the contract. I think you're gonna see Gibbs, in these 12 carry type things for the foreseeable future. I don't think it's gonna be a Gibbs show by any mean anytime soon, unless an injury happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's immune to game script at this point. Like if they're just beating the shit out of somebody, like I think it's going to be the Montgomery show. If they fall behind, which probably not going to happen very often with this team, like you could definitely see Gibbs have like a spike week in targets or carries or whatnot. But I think they'll still both get their opportunities. I think it's just a matter of like there's going to be a guy on this offense like every week that's just kind of get a little left behind.
There almost has to be because I mean they're so flush with talent now, especially at the receiver position too. I mean, you're talking about Jameson Williams now. Even Tim Patrick got involved this past week. Laporta got involved. Like somebody has to not get the touches. Like it just can't, especially when they're only throwing it. In the passing game, just such a limited amount of throws. I think that performance with 18 completions for 18 attempts, like there's just not a lot to go around. So who knows? We'll have to see what the game scripts look like. But he's still a quality player and can clearly get his points no matter how many carries he gets. Going down to the receivers, a couple of huge games. Garrett Wilson and Deebo Samuel both going for 17 and 18 respectively. DJ Moore with kind of a turd game, which was kind of a surprise, all things considered, when they kind of feel like they were trounced the Jaguars in that game, and he didn't really do much. Every time I watch those, I don't know if you watch those QB school every video or not, but I seem to watch all the Caleb ones at least because I have some investment there. And this offense has no idea how to use any of their players. It is the most frustrating thing.
It's gotten a little better as the years gone on, but it's like they've gotten Gerald Everett off the field, which is just
thank God.
Cole Kmet is such a better player than Gerald Everett.
It's just not close. You can see it like immediately. Like Cole Kmet, it has been one of their best players all year.
He's much better than Keenan Allen is. Like if you're just watching,
Keenan Allen is horrible. And it's not that he's like a bad receiver. He just doesn't have the juice anymore. It's over.
Cole Kmet is faster than him.
Yes, I would take him in a foot race right now. No questions asked. It wouldn't even be a thought. Like this offense, they have, Cole Kmet running these little drag routes and these little like whatever, and then Keenan Allen is running like deep posts. It's like that's got to be a Dunze. That's got to be DJ Moore, like guys with some actual juice. And they have the wrong players running the wrong routes at the wrong times in the wrong formations, and it's really frustrating. And I don't think it's going to get better.
They'll roll out these like little like quick flare screens to a tight end with like Keenan Allen or like a running back blocking for a tight end, and it just doesn't make any sense. Like, and it gets blown up.
Like, you can't expect a 5'11" DJ Moore to lead block. It just doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, it's just stuff like that where you see it on tape and you're like, what are they like? It's not that hard. Like, just put them in the right position. Like it's just logic.
Can't do it. Just can't do it. I don't know. I guess I feel like there might be a point in the season where they run into a tricky part. Like, for example, week 13, 14, 15, they get Detroit, San Francisco, Minnesota, and then Detroit again in week 6. So that's brutal.
Well, Detroit's defense might not be that scary now, but
maybe not. But just in general, just like scheme wise, they're going to throw a lot at them. And I just don't think that type of formation, that type of usage will fly against good teams like that. I feel like they've played a lot of cream puff games so far. I mean, obviously, Rams,
easy schedule.
Rams, Carolina, Jacksonville, last 3. I mean, it doesn't get a whole lot easier. So we'll see how it goes for the Bears moving forward and DJ Moore. Isaiah Likely in the tight end spot here, only 2 points. Mark Andrews was the the Ravens receiver tight end to actually make a play this week. So kind of just picked the wrong one there, which is going to be tough like all year. I just don't think you're going to know which one's going to go off right now. It feels like it's just random.
You should pick up Kolar. Just make it a real,
Well, they could have just, maybe for half a yard would have been great for me last week, but couldn't even get a half a yard. So Josh Jacobs, 9 points, 18 carries, 62 yards, kind of just a mid game for him. It's kind of story of the season for him, honestly. He's been a kind of middle of the pack. We're RB19 on the year so far.
Yeah.
I was expecting more.
He's racked up a good amount of like just total yardage. He just really hasn't gotten in the end zone very much.
I mean, he's at 464 yards through 6 games and has 100 yards in the receiving game. So it's not like he's not doing anything. It just feels like it's just not a lot of like crazy output games. Like it's 4.3 yards per carry is just fine. It's very, very boring football for Josh Jacobs. James Conner had a rough game, fumble loss, 7 carries, 24 yards, bad game script. Kind of just everything went wrong for him this game. But if you're looking at patterns, what's that? I'm sorry.
So the whole offense was bad.
Yeah, they looked awful. I mean, they had nothing, especially after Harrison went down. It just felt like they had nothing out there. Pattern wise, if you have a James Conner share, 16, 19, 2, 18, 12, 2. So maybe the next 2 are going to be good if you're going on patterns. So, but he also is injured apparently. So I'm just reading this now that he's getting his ankles taped 2 days ago. So who knows if he's actually hurt or not, but just hoping for better days for James Conner there, just better game scripts overall. He gets the Chargers next week. Then we got AJ Brown with a huge game against Cleveland. AJ Brown is still really good. That has not changed since week 1, since the last time we saw him. 18 points in both games he's played this season. I mean, Sean, just give me a state of the Eagles passing game, because it wasn't pretty to watch.
Of the passing game is they don't attack the middle of the field. Jalen Hurts takes forever to actually get the ball out once he makes a decision. So he has to throw specific routes. That's the Eagles.
It's not ideal. It's not ideal at all.
I mean, it works out for Brown because the passes that he needs to throw are very, very friendly for AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, but not so much everybody else.
Yeah, like for tight ends and kind of those crossing plays, like he just doesn't. There's just not a whole lot of like volume there, and they just can't seem to hit it. Like
they've had 4 each 4 of the 6 weeks they've had, or 5 weeks I guess they've had a bye. They've had a mesh route that's gone for a 25 plus play, and it's because they've gotten completely wide open, and they've just perfected the mesh route on this team where they will juke the defender and make the guy just freak out.
I do love a good mesh.
It's really good on tape. It is impressive, but that's been one of the few non just go balls that have been explosive plays for the team.
Yeah, it's just a mess up there. I mean, even in a win, it doesn't feel like you really won the game. It's kind of strange.
No, I'm gonna next podcast. I'm gonna shave my head and I'm gonna bring Sloan in while I do the podcast. Deflect all of the hard hitting questions with children in front of me, like a real man. Fucking loser.
It's unbelievable. All right, so let's go to the other side of this game, the Armadillos. I should say that the Cheese Fries had 4 players over 17 points. So that against teams like me right now, that's probably going to be enough, even with the Dak Prescott 3-burger, unfortunately. I did have Jalen Hurts in this game. He statistically was fine, 25 points, it's kind of ho-hum performance. Not a whole lot going on the ground, 14 carries for 33 yards. That kind of sucks. So yeah,
the Browns in general did a very good job stopping the run.
They bottled up Saquon pretty nicely as well. But my running backs, combining for 2.6 points doesn't help the cause. Not great. And frankly, there's nobody better. I just don't have anybody better, and I can't find anybody better on the wire. So this is kind of where we're at right now, unless we make a deal. I will say the pleasant surprise of the season has definitely been Jameson Williams, wide receiver 15 overall. He's not getting a ton of targets, but he's making the most of every single one of them. That offense is just so damn good that he's just going to get schemed open, and they can't double him because they can't just take attention away from other players in that offense. So he's going to get these free releases and he's going to get these chances. So I've been pleased.
He needs less opportunity on that team to do damage than everybody else. So it's a good situation for him as far as even if it's split up, he's definitely the one that profits the most, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, every time he catches the ball, it feels like it go for 50 yards. So he's just that explosive thing that they didn't really have in their offense over the last couple of seasons. So to have this now, just makes this offense even better as a whole. There's so much talent on that offensive side of the ball. It's unbelievable. Wan'Dale Robinson, just a target monster this season. Just every single game, it seems like he's got at least 8 targets. This past game, he had 11 targets. The only problem is he doesn't do anything with the targets. So his depth of target is terrible, and he doesn't really make much of it when he does catch the ball. So that's kind of disappointing. Going down the list, Brock Bowers, another good game for him, 9 for 10 for 71 yards. He got a huge play called back to in the middle of that game, so it could have easily been a 100-yard game. So
Is
he's
he the biggest winner of the Devontae Adams trade?
dude. I mean, if he had 10 targets last game, I mean, it feels like they're going to try to scheme this even more towards him, probably because he is their best player offensively. I mean, I don't know how he doesn't get a little bump from this, and of course, I'm all here for it. Let's keep going here. We got Rome Odunze. Also had a couple of chances in this game. If you watch those QB schools or on the film, like he always gets a chance, and it just doesn't seem like the ball ends up in his hands, like scheme wise, or Caleb made the bad throw or something like that. So they're just not quite clicking yet. I still ended up with 40 yards, but I think there's over time he's just going to keep ascending, and Keenan Allen's going to keep descending.
It seems like the only throw that he hasn't really made yet in the NFL is like that outside the numbers deep pass.
Just that one bomb throw.
Yeah, which I mean, if there's going to be a guy that's going to get that on the Bears, it's going to be Odunze. So we'll see. I'm sure that's coming. I'm not worried about his ability to make that pass.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb did have a fantastic game, just in terms of fantasy output, 36 points on my bench. That kind of sucked, but wouldn't have mattered anyway in this performance. So that's probably enough from this game. Let's go to the next one here, Sean. We're going to go to week 6, and we're going to go to Long Gamers Plague. So 126 for the Long Gamers, taking down the Plague with 104. We'll start with your side, Sean. Lamar Jackson, not his best game statistically, but just rock solid. 20 points a week guarantee, but ended up with 363 all-purpose yards. So there's really not a whole lot to argue with there, right? So I mean, he's getting a more challenging. What's that?
So no complaints for me. He's been great.
Nope, just keep taking your 20 and walk every single week, and hope for a couple bigger ones. Alvin Kamara, tough matchup against the Buccaneers. Terrible game script towards the beginning of the game. Ended up with 13 carries, 40 yards, and a touchdown. Added in an extra 24, so 12 points. For which feels low for him this year for some reason.
Right.
I mean, with the 43-point performance against Dallas in week 2, it's just kind of everything below that feels weird. But he's been rock solid. He is RB2 on the season, which is just a great boost for your squad for sure.
We'll see how it goes this week. He's literally like the only guy left. He's like Will Smith in the fucking meme, the Fresh Prince meme, where he's just the only one in the empty house.
Yeah, there's not a lot there, and
Olave is gone. Shaheed is out.
But means time.
Derek Carr is out. Taysom Hill is out. Their starting center is out. Their starting guard is out. It's so bad.
They have a lot of injuries, and it's really not that deep of a team. Like we talked about what happens if Olave goes out. This is exactly what we're talking about. Bub Means being your number one target. It's just not ideal. Mm-hmm. Jordan Mason, 9 carries, 73 yards. It's such an interesting thing with his shoulder injury, because like it looked like he could have played, at the end of that game, but didn't. Just strange.
He's practiced this week too.
Yeah, so he was limited today.
So that was a bummer, because he was rolling, man. He's
RB4. He's RB4 in the year, dude. He's played amazing.
Particularly last week, like he was like in that Thursday.
Oh yeah,
he was. Yeah,
rolling. He's 8.1 yards per carry in that game. 9 carries, 73 yards. It's great.
Oh,
really good game for him. Amon-Ra St. Brown, we kind of talked about the Lions overall. I mean, he had a 9-point performance, 4 catches, 37 yards, and a touchdown. So it's not like a terrible performance from him, but we're just not quite seeing the same level of overall involvement maybe as last year because of these new weapons. And he's wide receiver 23 on the season. So I do think he's going to have his huge weeks, but right now he's kind of settled into what seems like, kind of like a 7-catch, 75-yard, probably a touchdown kind of guy. And that's probably a little disappointing, right, Sean? Like just based on what you thought preseason.
Yeah. I mean, the team is always going to be like it's so well rounded, even before Jameson Williams kind of breaking out. But yeah, I mean, I'd say like going from like a comfortable like wide receiver 1 every week to maybe like I don't know, like low teens, like would be my expectation, like wide receiver like 13 to 16 every week instead of a wide receiver 1,
which isn't like not that crazy of a drop off really, but no. There's still potential here where on any given week he is like the wide receiver 1. Like,
Yeah, I'm not.
what's your
I mean, I'm
take?
not worried about him getting worse. Like he's not. It's not a talent thing, so it's not a
No,
big deal.
he's only 24. He's got plenty of great games ahead of him. It's just kind of odd, just the way that he's not quite being that target monster that he was last year, and it feels
Mhm.
different. Shit, you're looking at Romeo Dobbs here. What a start! Coming off
Squeaky
that
wheel,
game,
baby.
that big that big game script, that big what do they call that? The big storyline, the narrative fit really nicely for a blow up game for
Imagine
Dobbs.
just like not showing up to work for 2 days and being like, "Fuck you guys," and like they're like, "All right, well, we need you back because somebody got hurt." So,
It's like we got nobody else to do this job, so it's like,
all
I
right,
mean, he I really like him as a player. I just feel like he's a really solid player. Like I've always said, he's very Marvin Jonesy, and it's kind of living up to the hype. Is like that, just like little, wide receiver two that can make plays and be a good red zone target. So he'll be usable for sure at other times of the season, especially if Watson is hurt or Jaden Reed gets banged up or something. There'll just be more targets for him. Uh,
Mhm.
Drake London, 6 for 10, 74 yards and a touchdown. A really good performance against Carolina, which is
Seems
expected.
to be the weekly like average for him now too, which
It
is fine.
really is. Like if you look at his numbers, it's pretty much that every single week. 6 for about 60 something and a touchdown. It's pretty crazy. He's wide receiver 6 on the season, so that's pretty awesome. And that kind of, I guess you could just flip flop him and Amon St. Brown a little bit, really, just based on preseason expectations. Um, Dallas Goddard, not a good game. 0
Yeah,
points.
yeah,
Literally
got
got
hurt in the
targeted
first
one
quarter.
time. He's not you can't do anything about that. But let's
Nope.
talk about something more fun. Tyrone Tracy. I like
Yeah,
Tyrone
man.
Tracy.
Yeah, we were talking about it when we were on like the chat, like watching the game. Like he just looks so explosive, like all the time. I said like he kind of looks very like David Johnson esque to me, just because it's like that converted to running back kind of guy. He moves a little different than like a typical running back.
Yeah, he does look different. It just and he looks like a kick returner every time he's got the ball, which is
Yep.
exactly how David Johnson looked, and that's actually how he blew up during Bruce Arians' tenure. He was like a kick returner. Remember that like one game he had like 2 kick return for touchdown and like an extra
Mhm.
receiving touchdown. It was crazy. So I feel like that's kind of like his trajectory right now. It seems like that's what you're hoping for, and even if Singletary plays this week, there's no way they're not going to get this guy involved.
Yeah.
He's a different element to this passing game and running game that they haven't had. So let's keep going. Tyler Conklin, kind of a dump there. 1 point.
Yeah, I had James Cook in the flex, and then at the last second he got the out status. So it got a little
Yeah, that's
sketchy at
tough.
the end of the week because I had to switch that, and then Josh Allen, and I think he started somebody else in that game too. Maybe not. I know you're thinking of a different league. I think it was just Allen popping off, and it just made it a little. Not that it was like super close to the end, but like it made it a lot closer than what it looked like on Monday morning. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
this is probably a little scary. DeAndre Hopkins with 5.4 points, kind of just like a mid game for him, but that's kind of become the norm, unfortunately, for him with that offense just isn't very good, and there's not a whole lot you could do about it. I'm just not a
Yeah,
big Will Levis guy.
bye week fill in for me right now.
Yeah, and that's totally acceptable. Let's see what other one. So let's go over to the Plague with 104. They dropped to 2-4 on the year. Not obviously not what they're looking for, but Josh Allen, another great game, 28 points, QB5 overall on the year. So it's pretty nice. Just classic Josh Allen production. J.K. Dobbins for 16. I got to tell you, I think J.K. Dobbins is for real. I finally think I can believe it. It took me a long time to believe that he could stay healthy, that he was going to continue to get the usage and keep putting up the numbers, and he keeps doing it. He had 25 freaking carries this past week.
I of all the things that like I take out of the Dobbins like comeback, like it's that he did the same recovery strategy as Rogers for the Achilles,
Mm.
and like it seems to be working really well. Like
He's,
I don't know,
he's
like that was a new procedure, so like you know how like we turned the corner with like ACL recoveries, like what would you say, like a decade ago, where it seemed like it got
yeah,
better.
yeah.
This feels like the like kind of turning the corner a little bit for like Achilles not to be like a career ender.
Yeah, I mean, before it was, if you had an Achilles, it was over. Like your whole career is over. So, I
Hmm.
mean, to come back and average 5.4 yards per carry, RB 16 on the year. He looks good on film too. You just watch him play. He looks like he kind of used to. He's not quite as fast, but he looks great. You can see the holes. He's doing everything right. So, I mean, I'm willing to admit that he is back and he looks good and he's a legitimate RB2 option, which man, did Dan need anything at running back?
Yeah.
Obviously, now he's getting Chubb back, what seems to be this week. So that's a big
Yeah.
help. So Dobbins and Chubb, if that's this ship could turn around quickly for Dan's team.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
think anybody is. All of us are probably rooting for Chubb. Like, I don't think there's anybody in the world that
no,
dislikes that guy. So,
dude, Chubb. I mean, I've said this many times in this podcast. He's my favorite running back in the league. He is such a great pure running back that we just don't see that much anymore. So
mhm.
he's going to be a guy I'm looking forward to seeing, and I think too with getting a guy like Antonio Gibson out of the lineup is going to be a nice thing for the Plague overall. So let's go down to the receivers. DK Metcalf, just a strange couple of last games, lots of targets, not a lot of production. He's getting mad on the sidelines. He's calling people. He's calling the offensive coordinator on the sidelines, saying what the hell's going on.
I think he also had like a big touchdown called back this week too, if I
I
remember
want to
correctly
believe
from
that's
that
the
game.
case. I can't remember off the top of my head, but 3 for 48 on 11 targets is not ideal. But he's getting so many targets that it'll turn around for him. It's just a matter of getting a good uh, matchup. San Francisco's not usually a good matchup to try to like break out in. But this
Yeah,
week he gets Atlanta, then he gets Buffalo, then he gets the Rams. So there's some opportunities there. Um, Michael Pittman, 3 for 35 and a touchdown.
it's
If
better
he didn't
than
have,
being IR.
I mean, true. I couldn't believe that he even played. Honestly, I was ready to start Alec Pierce or Adonai Mitchell in that
Do
game,
you,
but
do you think if Anthony Richardson was the starter in this game, he would have gone to IR?
that's a good question. It's certainly not
Conspiracy
like
theory
out of
time.
the. It's not out of the question. I think it's possible, uh, but I'm just not excited about Michael Pittman at all, man. Like,
Yeah,
he's just not getting the big yardage numbers. He's in 5 of the 6 games, he's had 30 yards.
I remember touching on it after they made the trade where he got Pittman, and then I want to say like a couple days later, Tibbs traded for Josh Downs, and I remember saying like I like that a lot because I'm like there's a good chance that Downs is just a better receiver in the
I
long
I,
term.
I just feel like I don't think Pittman's a bad receiver. I just don't think he's
I don't
like
either.
a true number one, like a true
No,
alpha one.
he's a
He's a
very good two.
quality, yeah, like he should be like in a good like big slot role or something where he can work the middle of the field. They don't. I mean, this year they've been using him more in the red zone, which is nice, but just it just doesn't feel like he's nearly explosive enough to be like a big piece of this offense because this offense is so based on huge plays, big arm Richardson, and he's just not that guy. So, I mean, it's not like he's a bad player or anything. It's just not really a great fit right now. And maybe it'll turn around and maybe they'll find different ways to use him. But right now, I'm just not all that excited. He's wide receiver 35 on the year, which is not good based on preseason expectations. Tucker Kraft gets the start at tight end for Dan. Following 2 huge weeks, 11 and 20, then he follows it up with a complete stinker here, 1.5. I think he also got hurt at some point during this game.
Groin.
So groin, yeah, he's limited on Wednesday today. So maybe he'll get back to healthy and play this week. Moving down the list, we had a couple of honestly, there's 3 real stinkers here. You got Kraft for 1, Ray McLeod for 1.3, Jerome Ford 2 carries for 14 yards. That is, I didn't even see that because I had Ford in like none of my leagues. He must have got hurt too, right? There's no way he only had 2 carries.
I mean, he's had such weird
Hamstring.
usage this year.
Yeah, he hasn't had over 12 carries in a game. A lot of targets though. Geez, 7 targets, 4 targets, 3 targets.
No yards.
He absolutely no yards, Sean. He has 20 catches for 87 yards. Wow.
Deshaun
Very
Watson's just awful.
not explosive, but his
He's so
running
bad.
numbers 50 carries for 264 for the year, 5.2 yards per carry. What are we doing here? Give him the
They don't want
ball.
to use him.
Give
They
him the
don't want to
ball.
win.
Well, now
They
he's
don't want
really
to
not
use
going to get the
this.
ball because Chubb's back.
Yeah, they're not going to give the better running back the ball. They're not going to give the better quarterback the ball. They just don't want to win.
It feels like they're just like in full tank or something. It's just like strange, dude. Um, Somehow Alexander Madison got 12 points.
That touchdown will help.
The touchdown to 14 for 33 on the ground, Sean.
That is
2.3 yards per carry.
that's elite midness. That's what that is.
Oh my god, his yards per carry this season have been abysmal. 3.8 in week 1, 0.25, 0.25 in week 2, 2.3 week 3. Well, he had that huge run in week 4, so we'll cut him a break on that one. And then Denver, he had 2.5, Pittsburgh 2.3. He gets the Rams this week, so maybe there's some hope. But geez, it's just
that team cannot run the ball and they can't stop the run for anything.
And that is the classic sign of a shit team, right? Like if you can't do those two things, you're not going to be a good team. I remember so many years of the Bucks not being able to do either one of those things, and it was miserable. It was hard to watch. Chris Boswell, big game though, 17 points. He's been pretty good this year. I think he's number 2.
I need to go back and look at all of my points against every kicker so far, like each week. I feel like I've not seen below 15 points yet this year against a kicker.
Yeah, that's it. It always hurts more when you like get giant kicker numbers against you. 20-point kicker performances. So long gamers go to 4-2. Really good spot to be, right in the thick of the hunt there. And then the plague dropped to 2-4. But like we mentioned, getting Chubb back, we'll get some players back off of bye like Jefferson. Sam Darnold's coming off the bye. So I feel like there's, and then of course with Devontae Adams in a better situation, that's going to potentially be a boost. So I mean, I really feel like the Plague are in a good spot as far as like turning it around. Like 2-4 is not really ideal, but I have a high hope for the Plague to kind of make this work. And guess who he plays next week? It's the Roadkill Armadillos. So definitely a great chance for the Plague to turn around. So let's go to the Bombers versus the Lambs in a tank event for the Lambs as usual. 130-72 was the final score. The Bombers have been just rock solid all year. It feels like every single week they're putting up 130, which is just really solid numbers in this league. And of course, he's 4-2 as well. The Lambs dropped to 1-5. Really, let's find some highlight players here. Burrow was kind of just not really special in that horrible game that we all watched on Sunday night. It was just a bad game. I can't believe he even got 19 points out of that game because it just felt like nothing was happening.
He got most of it off of one play, didn't he?
I think it was that long running play. Yeah, the 4 carries for 55 yards and a touchdown. So there it is right there. It's just, man, that game was so hard to watch, dude. Just really, really bad. I'm just having like PTSD from it. Kenny Walker, 14 carries, 32 yards and a touchdown, added 8 targets, 8 catches for 37, which is just a very strange stat line, just like no yardage on a ton of usage. It just doesn't really make sense, but it is San Francisco we're talking about that he was playing against. So a good game. Travis Etienne, is he done? Is it over?
When he pulled his hammy.
I mean, he got hurt, but like he was 3 carries for -1 anyway.
I think everybody on that team is done. That team is when they lose to the Patriots, they will be done.
I mean, he's just clearly fallen behind Bigsby at this point. I just don't see.
Well, Bigsby didn't play the most out of.
I mean, no, he played like shit too. I mean, like he only had 27% of the snaps. Like he didn't do anything either.
Ernest Johnson played the most, but that was probably game script too. And Bigsby, I think, fumbled a kickoff or something in that game. I thought.
So the moral of the story here is that everybody sucks, and you shouldn't be playing any of them for a little while.
Other than BTJ, that's it.
I can't. Maybe Ingram, maybe.
Yeah, he did have 10 catches, like 100 yards. He also fumbled though. Everybody be fumbling.
It's a bad team, Sean. Just a really bad team.
It's so obvious to just see like that they are not well coached. Like the attention to detail stuff and like those kind of things are just so lacking when you watch them. It's so obvious.
Yeah, I mean, I try not to watch the Jaguars, but when I do, it's not pretty to look at.
when they're in an island game in the morning and there's nothing else on. Like,
Yeah, it's like I woke up and I was just like, oh, the game's on. And then I'm like, oh, God, the game's on. It's like, I don't want to watch this shit.
I get to watch Drake May this weekend. So
Yeah, I guess there's some positive there.
yeah. Well, maybe, I don't know. He had an MRI today apparently. So
For what? What happened?
on his knee? I don't know.
Oh my God, I didn't even know that. Well, that's sad. He just got here. It's like I wanted to see what we had.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just overall sad. All right, let's continue down the Bombers list here. Let's go to Chris Godwin. What a revelation this man has been this season. I mean, this guy, he is. Now here's a guy, Sean. This guy, wide receiver 2 on the year, basically guaranteed 8 targets a game. Basically, at this point, you could lock him in for double digits every single week. He had 25 this past week. You know, had that really long catch and run. I mean, this is a classic contract year guy. This guy wants the deal, and
That's true.
We already knew he was a good player, but it was the fact that they moved him into the slot where he belongs, and he's being utilized. He looks great. He's healthy, and Baker's cooking. It's all working for Chris Godwin, and I think most people before the season would tell you that they did not see this kind of top 10 level production week to week, especially the consistency, because it used to be with the Canales offense, or even before that, it was always kind of like Mike Evans this week, Chris Godwin that week, you know, somebody else this week. Is it kind of just, it never really felt very consistent, but for Godwin this year, it's been just the most consistent career year for him. So got to feel good if you're Justin. Just locking and loading him.
Top 5 receivers are pretty great right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at Jaden Reed, Chris Godwin, Jamar Chase, Brian Thomas Jr., I believe. No, he's not on that team.
Sorry, I was talking about Deontay Johnson.
Oh, Deontay Johnson too, Marvin Harrison as well.
Since they went to Andy Dalton, he's been really good.
Yeah, I forgot Brian Thomas is no longer on this team. But yes, there's a plethora of receivers to throw into these flex spots. And like when you're starting like Jordan Reed or Jaden Reed, I can't believe I said Jordan Reed. I hate Jordan Reed. Jaden Reed. The fact that he's in your flex, you know, probably in your flex in most weeks, and when your lineup's fully fleshed out, that is just an amazing advantage you have over a lot of teams. So, I mean, just really good performances again from Chris Godwin. And Jaden Reed, you know, not his most productive game, but he still got a touchdown to bail him out. So hopefully he
hurt too. So
yeah, I remember he got hurt. Hopefully he ends up playing. Looks like he was limited today, so maybe there's a shot he goes this week. Kyle Pitts 3 for 70. I still don't know what to do with Kyle Pitts. I
would say that's a positive, and we can.
I mean, he's had 88 yards the week before, 70 this week. He had 59 back in week 3. So like, it's kind of ascending, maybe ish. I don't know. Who knows? I mean,
what tight end is he on the year?
Not good.
Tight end 7.
7 with a 0. With a 0.
Let me tell you what an indictment that is on the tight end position right there. It's so bad.
The tight end position is a mess this year. Like even guys like Dalton Kincaid are just like I thought you were going to at least be a top 5 tight end. He's not even close to that.
That is definitely one of my biggest misses. I thought he was going to be.
Like everybody missed on that
number
one. I feel like
passing option on that team. Yeah,
there's people talking about him being tight end 1 overall. Like it's just has not been the case whatsoever. Big play here from Joe Mixon here, 26.2 in a game against New England there. 13 carries, 102 yards, a touchdown, added in 30 yards on the receiving game, and another touchdown. Joe Mixon has been very good when he's not been hurt this season. And frankly, I mean, like Justin's team needed this really bad. This is exactly what he needed. Preseason, obviously ETN being not what he was advertised is not great, but Joe Mixon is holding up his end of the bargain here, and really is an important piece of this offense and an important piece of Justin's team moving forward. Let's go to the other side of the game, the Lambs. Let's see if we can find some fun Lambs topics here. I feel like that's our weekly things. Like, what can we find fun on the Lambs to talk about? And this week, it doesn't feel like a whole lot, Sean.
Big Cade Otton game.
What about the 0 catch Xavier Hutchinson game? That's a fun one.
That one I don't even think is a bad start because he was getting targeted.
It wasn't a bad start, but I just think it's fun that he's just like, hey, he's doing the tank job. It's like he played 50% of the snaps. He
Yeah.
was supposed to have an elevated role in the offense, and he understood the assignment, did not play well, and that's exactly what you want. So that's a tanking team. Kate
Well,
Otten did have a nice week, though. Yeah.
yeah, it looks like Keon Coleman's probably going to get shelved now until next year,
I mean,
unless he
I,
gets
s-
moved into the slot, which is what I would love.
I feel
Trade
like it's his
Wallace.
best spot. Like, I mean,
Oh
if they
yeah,
can just use him as like a big slot, like to me, if you're the Bills, you kind of want to do like a big slot on one side, run four wides a lot, run, big, use him in kind of like in the, frankly, the Kincaid role. Like he should kind of be in that role. Um,
Mhm.
and I just don't know if he's going to have much of a spot right now, but I do love the Diggs fit there, or not the Diggs fit, the Cooper fit. Just frankly, almost like identical in terms of like play style, just great route running, has some explosiveness, but just really makes their money just getting open and separating. And that's pretty much what this offense has been lacking all year.
Yeah, it's basically if they want to win against man, it's been like Shakir, and he's not. He's just
He's fine.
he's a good player. He's just
Yeah.
not the same. Like you don't get explosives out of Shakir.
No, to me, he's more than just a guy, but he's not much more than that. So it's like he's an average NFL player at best. So I do think this is a great trade for the Bills. But yes, for Keon, that definitely hurts. Overall morale as you're trying to evaluate his talent this year.
It's good for the Lambs.
Very great. I mean, it's ideal scenario for the Lambs. I don't really think there's a whole lot more worth talking about here. So let's just keep moving along.
Nope.
So next game on my list, week 6, we're going to Muskegon Muskrats versus Kentucky Elk. Muskrats get a must-need. It absolutely had to have it win against the Elk, 115-83. Pretty solid week overall for the Muskrats. Didn't really get a ton out of Geno Smith, despite having 52 passing attempts in that game. Only 312 yards and a touchdown, 2 picks as well. 15-point performance for Geno. It's just not really that great. And he just did not look good in that game. I mean, we watched that live and it was hard to watch. So hopefully they get some better matchups soon for him. Najee Harris for 19 points. Oh my God, I don't have it ready. How could I do this?
Najee Harris.
There it is.
Definitely his best game of the year for
He
sure.
looked good. Like the 2 angry runs he had he must have been mad about people saying he was soft or something, because that looked different.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like he did this last year, like where he started off terribly and like he did pick up throughout the year. I
He
don't know.
did.
It's just a slow starter, I guess.
I mean, maybe he just it feels strange because it's like he's over the entirety of his career, he's just got nothing but a zillion carries. And it's like how could you be a slow starter when you're getting 25 carries a game? It seems like it just doesn't really make sense. But he, up until this week, it was basically 7s and 8s. If you look at his game log, so to get the 19-point performance is a huge boost to this Muskrats offense. And Chuba Hubbard has been quite a revelation as well for the Muskrats. Getting multiple, I think 4 straight weeks over 10 double-digit points, including this week against the Falcons. 18 carries for 92 yards, no touchdown, but still a great game. Chuba's been awesome this year. He's averaging 5.6 yards per carry. Even if Jonathan Brooks comes back, he's still absolutely going to have a role, and he's going to be a usable fantasy asset. So just ride him until then and keep evaluating as it goes. But he's RB7 on the year, which is amazing for him. So great find, and frankly, that pick, that second pick is taking a long time to pan out, but it's working right now. So it's strange. But let's go to the receivers. Calvin Ridley, 0 catches, 8 targets, 1 carry for 9 yards. That's gotta be one of the worst stat lines I can remember.
Looking at the clips of what they consider targets to Calvin Ridley, I will give him credit. Like
there was a couple that probably shouldn't have been. Yes,
there wasn't.
I watched them all. Yeah. I saw them on Twitter and I was like, "Oh God, do I want to watch this? I don't want to throw up this early."
That being said, like it's not great, man.
They just, it's bad. I mean, they're throwing him into these awful hospital balls, and it's. I understand his frustration. It's just not good. It's just the utilization is terrible.
Probably not good to take it out like over the media, but it's fine.
Yeah, maybe shouldn't do that, but he's not been good, and that's just not good for this team because they need they need any sort of wide receiver help, and Ridley has the talent to do it, and it's just not happening.
Are
So
you trying to say that Lil Jordan Humphrey was not helpful?
what I'm trying to say is Lil Jordan Humphrey 1 for 8 yards is just not going to do it. I just don't think it's going to do it. Um, and if you look at his bench, I mean, I'm trying to find some other options at the receiver position. We're talking Noah Brown, Treylon Burks, Marvin Mims, Jacoby Myers. Like, there's just nothing here, Sean. And I mean, I don't, like we've said it many times on this podcast, we just don't really know where to go from here. But I mean, 115 is a good game. It's obviously, DeAndre Swift has definitely been coming on over the last 3 weeks after such a shitty start. But, the running backs are keeping this team somewhat afloat right now, with Chuba, with Najee now, and DeAndre Swift. But I just don't see this having enough firepower to really like making a charge here. I actually don't remember who he's playing Vince this week in a huge matchup. So, I mean, right now I can't take him in that game with that receiving room. It's just, it's not good enough.
Nope.
I guess the positive here too is you got your 1-for-1 Sam Laporta for 52 yards and a touchdown. So that was pretty cool.
Sam Laporta is on pace for 51 targets this year.
That is crazy. That is crazy. He's got 15 targets on the year for 13 catches for 199 and a touchdown through 6 games. That is just not going to do it. Well, 5 games they had to buy.
Yeah,
that's not good. Not good. But with that, he's 199 yards and a touchdown, and he's a tight end 12 on the year somehow. That just doesn't seem right, but it is. Crazy time. So let's go over to the other side of the game. The Kentucky Elk, they're just battling right now. It's not going their way. They're 1-5. CJ Stroud, good game overall, 24 points. Man, Chris Olave hurt. That was a bad one.
Career concussion number 3.
Dude, he's getting banged up, man. We've said it how many times in this podcast about him getting head injuries, and he get another one, dude. It's just like, come on.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like losing Rashid Shaheed in that game as well. Could be on IR as well with a meniscus injury. That's a big blow because he's been awesome this year. He's wide receiver 12. So that would suck for the Elk as well. Really, it's just not a good week. I mean, Freiermuth for 1, Shakir for 1.9, Mooney for 3.8. Just a lot of turd performances. And we do have to mention that Chris Olave did the Kenny Britt special, which was the 1 catch for 5 yards and a fumble loss. So he ended up with negative 1.5. So the old Kenny Britt get hurt and fumble the ball just to rub it in. It's just no fun for the Elk there. And then Roschon Johnson, you shouldn't be starting Roschon usually.
This team left a lot of points on the bench this week. I will say that.
Yeah, I mean, Chase Brown on the bench was a questionable decision. I know Brown was banged up during the week, but Brown under Roschon Johnson, I don't know about that.
Under Shakir.
Yeah. Like Brown should have been played this week, probably. Even he didn't have a huge game, but like he did enough to be more valuable. And then Cole Kmet on the bench as well. A little questionable based on how much he's been utilized over the last few weeks and how well he's played. So definitely some interesting roster decisions there. Maybe more to be discussed at a later time. But the Elk, if they're trying to win, it doesn't seem like it right now. So we'll have to see how they fare next week in week 7. They have a tough matchup against the Baton Rouge Bombers, so I don't see this turning around very quickly. Last game of the week here. Let's go to. I'm sorry, we have to go back here. I'm in the wrong week. Last game of the week here. Actually, the best game of the week. Toronto Battle Axes versus the Lauderdale Lionheads. The Battle Axes just keep trucking. If you're in the way, get out of the way. Hide your kids, hide your wife. Just get out of the way of the Battle Axes. 170 points, 130. I am the Senate. 170 to 136. Scavelli's team. I think Scavelli's team is averaging over 150 a week. I got to look at it again, but it is a crazy number, and it's the Derrick Henry extravaganza, Sean. I mean, his game log for fantasy points is an absolute work of art. It is beautiful to look at. What's crazy is he's never been used on more than 70% of the snaps in the entire season for any game. And he is managing to get 10, 15, 30, 33, 15, 26. I mean, you can lock him in your lineup. You're going to guarantee yourself he's going to have a touchdown almost every single week. I think he does have a touchdown every week. He had 2 in a couple of weeks. He has 700 yards, 8 touchdowns on the year. He's averaging 5.92 yards per carry. And his age 30 season. It's crazy. He's a freakazoid. He's a freakazoid.
He's on pace for like 2,000 yards and like 26 touchdowns or 25, 26 touchdowns.
I mean, at age 30, that's just an absolutely incredible season. And
LT shit.
I mean, how many times this offseason do we say like this is the perfect fit? Like he looks like a Raven. This is I mean, but seeing how they're using them, like because I think we mentioned it the other day on the live stream, but it's you got Lamar running RPOs to Derrick Henry. You got one guy that can literally just put you through a wall, and then you got another guy that could juke you out of your shoes. Like, how do you defend this? That running game is crazy.
I think the most important stat that should have made him a top 3 or 4 pick in redraft leagues this year is pretty much this. With Lamar on the field, Ravens running backs average the highest amount of yards before contact in the league, like the last, since Lamar's been in the league. Last year, Derrick Henry had the lowest yards per carry before contact in the NFL.
Wow, that's crazy.
And that's all you need to know.
I just feel like people, I mean, I think it was just like the age that kind of scared people off. It's like, oh, maybe like he's going to finally slow down, but there was no indication of that over the last 2 years. I mean, he's finished his RB3 and 5 in the last 2 years. Now he's number 1. And people seem to forget, like, every whatever, every season there's one guy who is a complete freakazoid, and it doesn't matter. All the injuries, all the usage, the age, the whatever, it just doesn't matter because they're just so different. I remember so many times with Julio like that, where it's like, oh, he's just Julio, just like play him. He's Julio. You just play him. Like when you have a guy like this, where they come back from injury fast, they work their asses off. Like he's the perfect running back. Like he's exactly what you want. So don't overthink it too much. So yeah, he's on fire. Scavelli was really wise not to trade him in this offseason. I know I sent a zillion offers for him and Barkley, frankly, and he held both of them, and they've both been really good. Not this week so much for Barkley, but just amazing running back production in this team. Also, picking up Stephon Diggs in that trade has been a really great move for him. Wide receiver 8 on the year with Nico out now for 4 weeks, I guess 3 after this week. Getting that kind of production, as well as having Mike Evans, and now getting Amari Cooper going to the Bills. I mean, could that trade look any better right now for Scavelli? I mean, it's just what a great trade.
Probably not. No.
And just to revisit it for those that might not remember off the top of their head, we got Aaron Rodgers, Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, Baker Mayfield, and Brian Robinson. All of those guys are at least playable in some facet. For David Njoku, Will Levis, Frank Gore Jr., Denver Broncos defense, and a first and a third. So, I mean, you got 3 to 4 starters out of that trade when your team needed it the most. I mean, we talked all offseason how something needed to happen. He made it happen. Just a great season for Scavelli so far. There's just really I can't find a whole lot of bad things. I mean, getting Bucky Irving too to show up as a big time, running back for him is another huge boost. I mean, there's youth and there's the veteran infusion here. It's just what a turnaround for the Battle Axes, compared to what we saw them as, after the draft, really. It's just a huge turnaround. So great for him. Let's go over to the Lionheads. 136, damn good week. I think that was it maybe that the second most all week? I think it was. So, I mean, any other matchup, he would have won.
Yep.
Bijan had the blow-up game he needed against the Carolina Panthers, so that was nice to see. David Montgomery, another 20-point performance. The guy is a stud. I mean, David Montgomery's game logs are 15, 13, 19, 14, and 20. He's RB6 on the year. Just a fantastic game. He's been great all season. And this receiving core with Zay Flowers and Terry McLaurin continues to keep putting up points. I mean, both of them just continue to rack it up. And I got to tell you, I was listening to a podcast today where they were talking about Zay Flowers for a little bit, and they said something funny that made me laugh. Is there any other player in the league, or maybe really ever, that you've seen, maybe other than like Tyreek, that you would not want to play a game of tag with than Zay Flowers? Because that guy, nobody, like, there's people always around him, but they can't seem to touch him. Like, he's such a jitterbug after he catches the ball. It's unbelievable.
You remember, I think it was against the Chiefs in week 1, the play where he just ducked underneath one of the offensive linemen in the backfield and you couldn't see him?
Yeah, dude, he looks like he's playing Kill the Carrier. It's just finding a way around people. It's just he is a special talent. He is very good after the catch,
Yeah.
and
It's
he can
almost
get open.
It's almost disappointing because he had that. It was almost close to that stat line in the first half. So you're like, okay, here we go, 200-yard incoming.
You would think, yeah.
They just kind of slowed down in the second half, but
yeah, the whole offense kind of really didn't move a ton in the second. It was a lot of running in the second half there, but Terry McLaurin, another 2-touchdown game. I mean, he's wide receiver 14 on the year, but he's been rock solid over the last 4 games, 10 points in every single one of those games or more.
We freed Terry.
He's finally free, and I'm happy to see it because I love him. Trey McBride has been excellent as well this last couple, actually not really the last couple of weeks, but he had 8 for 8 for 96 in this game, his season high.
Still hasn't scored a receiving touchdown this year.
Touchdown, but with
he has a touchdown this year.
Oh, that's right. It was the fumble recovery, wasn't it?
Recovery.
I do remember that. That was a James Conner fumble recovery or something. I forgot.
So.
But
yeah.
But yeah, he's just continues to get his targets. I mean, he's averaging 6 targets basically a game, if not more. So I mean, he's just a rock solid lock and load tight end, especially in this landscape right now. Trey Tucker, 0 catches on 2 targets.
It is a bummer.
And I'm sure he was a bye week fill-in for this squad, but maybe Tyler Algier was a better start this week, but you never know.
I mean, if we all would have known James Cook was going to be out, he has Ray Davis on the bench.
Well, yeah, but everybody, I didn't even know James Cook was out until I started watching the game. That's because I don't have him in anything. So I was like, oh my god! I just
happened to check my lineup at 7:45. I was like, oh shit.
It's I literally was watching. I missed the first quarter of the game, and then I turned it on. I was like, why is Ray Davis getting all these carries? I just cut him in redraft. What is happening? And then of course,
he looks so good too,
dude. I have cut so many backups that end up becoming starters in that league so far. I'm like, this is unbelievable. Just terrible. So yes, so there's going to be other options here for the Lionheads coming off the bench in these weeks. He also had Demario Douglas have a really nice game with Drake May, 6 catches, 92 yards on the bench and a touchdown.
I will shout out that he had Trey Tucker and Justin Tucker back to back in his lineup, and I find that aesthetically pleasing.
It does look nice. I will say that it does look nice. And frankly, if you just split the 13 points from Justin Tucker across the 2 of them, it looks a lot better. So it's a visual thing with seeing the goose egg on there. But maybe a couple of different changes would have helped. But I mean, this Scavelli's team was just rolling, and I don't think it would have mattered too much anyway. So Scavelli is the team to beat. I think it's very obvious. Let's go preview some Week 7 games, and then we'll get out of here, Sean. So we got the Philadelphia Plague versus the Texas Armadillos. Should be a win for the Plague. We are struggling at the running back position, but we will get a couple of guys back off of potentially get Achane back, which might be a boost. And then we have a couple other guys that we're hoping can start to get healthier here. Trying to look at major bye weeks for the Plague. I'm not seeing anything super crazy for buys. It looks like he's pretty clean on buys. Maybe Keenan Allen, but
he's the only one. Yeah.
All right. Well, it's not a problem then, really. So let's go to the next game: Lake Lure Long Gamers versus the Lambs. Love it for you, Sean. Obviously. So
welcome to the slaughterhouse.
The slaughterhouse. That'd be a great name if they had a fake stadium for the Lambs. Call it the Slaughterhouse.
Yeah.
I might have to make a. That sounds. I might have to make a T-shirt for that just to send it to James for fun. Oh, that's funny. Oh God. Okay, so the slaughter. That's at least a Photoshop. Baton Rouge Bombers versus the Kentucky Elk. Seems like the Elk have a lot of issues this week between injuries and bye weeks. So I'm not seeing a W there for the Elk, but who knows?
Boy, it's tough out here.
And big matchup, rivalry matchup, Muskrats versus Lionheads. I'm going to call it the game of the week, even though I know the Cheese Fries Battle Axis is a better game. I love the hustle. And once again, if you all weren't in the recent watch parties, we are going to do another watch party for Monday next week.
Double header, baby.
It is a double header, but we also get Bucks and Ravens in that double header. So feel free to join us in the Discord for that one. We're just going to be hanging out watching. The last couple have been pretty fun, so we'll keep it rolling. And Cheese Fries Battle Axis, as I mentioned, is the best game of the week. Just from a talent perspective, I am very excited to watch that matchup, and I think there's really not a ton of buys in this game. So it looks like Dak's on buy, so we'll probably get a Anthony Richardson game if he's playing.
You better hope he's starting.
Yeah, I was like, what other option does he have? I don't think there is one. You have to go to the Lambs.
Go to the Lambs. Go to the slaughterhouse.
go to the slaughterhouse for your bye week fills. The poor Lambs. It's funny because you got Roadkill, you got the Slaughterhouse. What other names are? What we got to come up with one for the Elk? The Venison.
All prepared by the Battle Axes.
Chopped up by the Battle Axes. It's
everybody's getting chopped up by the Battle Axes.
It doesn't matter what you are.
Nerds around here.
You're gonna get roasted.
The Lionheads are getting Cooper Kupp back probably this week.
That is very true. I saw that he was practicing at least in some capacity.
That lineup looks a lot better when Cooper Kupp's in it. I will say that. Jonathan Taylor's questionable too. Hello.
Hey, maybe get a little boost here.
Still not back in practice, but he says questionable. So that would be
if you can get those two guys back for this matchup, that would be huge.
Yeah, when he's got everybody in that starting lineup, that is a really good lineup. So
that is definitely one of the teams to beat. I mean, like just looking at the receivers before the year, you might have said that the receivers maybe were a little weak. But with Flowers, McLaurin, and then Cooper Kupp being Cooper Kupp, like that's a great trio this season. It's really working out right now. At least in the last few weeks, it's definitely turned it around for all those guys. So, all right, so that's going to do it. We're right at an hour, and we will see you guys at the watch party for Monday night. And if we don't see you then we'll see you for the next podcast. We'll see y'all later.